Sir, this form is incomplete, and frankly, these supporting documents seem questionable. Are you certain you qualify for a Level 3 disability placard? The voice came from behind the Department of Motor Vehicles counter, flat and tinged with a weary impatience born of endless days spent processing the steady stream of people, each carrying their own urgent but monotonously similar concerns. Elias Thorne, a man with a quiet demeanor and slightly stooped posture that belied the strength within, simply nodded. His clothes, though clean, were worn, reflecting a life lived with practicality rather than flair. He leaned a little more on his plain wooden cane, its polished dark grain contrasting sharply with the chipped formica of the counter. "The pain in my legs," he said, voice gravelly like stones shifting in a slow-moving stream, "makes walking distances difficult, ma'am, especially from the standard parking." The clerk, Janice, a woman barely in her 30s with a customer service specialist name tag, audibly sighed. Her manicured nail tapped a highlighted section of the form. "Everyone says that, sir. We need verifiable concrete evidence. Documentation that complies with regulations." She gave him a glance, brief but assessing, her eyes moving over his faded jacket and the deep lines carved into his face, lines telling stories she had no time or will to read. Perhaps a lower-level placard would be more appropriate, or you could reapply once you've obtained more substantial evidence. Though couched in polite terms, the message was unmistakable. You don't look the part. You're not worth my time. Elias felt the familiar constriction in his chest, a dull pain unrelated to old injuries. He had once faced enemies who wielded deadlier weapons than bureaucratic indifference. Yet, this felt like a different kind of attack. He didn't see Janice as an adversary, only another soul caught within a system that had long forgotten the humanity it was meant to serve. The air inside the DMV was thick with stale coffee, disinfectant, and the quiet tension of those waiting to be called, hoping their issues might be resolved rather than dismissed. Elias was just another number, just another inconvenience. Her dismissiveness stung, not because of the words themselves, but because of their weight, the accumulated effect of many such moments over time. They wore a man down. If you believe the quiet sacrifices of veterans deserve lasting recognition and dignity, type "honor always" in the comments below. Let their voices be heard. Let their worth never be forgotten. This is Hidden Sparks. Once, Elias Thorne moved with the deadly grace of a panther, his body a weapon honed by discipline and duty. As Master Sergeant Thorne, he had led missions through jungles so dense that daylight was rumor, across deserts so vast that sound disappeared. He had served 3 tours in unnamed theaters where valor and horror walked side by side. The commendations collected in a small wooden box in his modest apartment were silent proof. Valor under fire, lives saved, missions achieved against all odds. A Distinguished Service Cross, silver stars, purple hearts, each a token of blood shed in service of freedoms now taken for granted. His current life bore no resemblance to those years. He lived alone in a 2-room apartment on the city's edge, kept immaculately clean, a habit from military days. His life followed a routine meant to quiet the ghosts of war and the chronic pain that never left. The cane wasn't for show. An IED during his final tour had shattered his left leg. The scars were hidden beneath his trousers, but the pain was constant, aggravated by cold or long periods on his feet. His right knee, injured in a parachute landing, wasn't much better. The disability placard wasn't a convenience. It was survival. Trips to the VA, grocery runs, medication pickups, All became grueling challenges when parking meant walking half a mile. But Elias didn't complain. He had been trained to endure, to adapt, to overcome. What wounded him now wasn't physical. It was the implication that he was trying to cheat the system. He had submitted all the VA documentation, letters detailing the service-connected injuries and their impact on his mobility. But it seemed that his appearance, just another aging man, failed to make an impression. He wasn't asking for a celebration, just a small accommodation, one he had earned. He left the DMV that day with quiet determination. He would gather whatever papers were needed. He would come back. He was a soldier, and soldiers don't give up, no matter the battlefield. Even if that battlefield was behind a DMV counter and the enemy was cold, bureaucratic apathy. The city outside buzzed with indifference, people rushing, unaware of the silent wars still being fought by men like Elias. Men who gave everything and now ask for so little. He moved slowly toward the bus stop, each step a triumph against pain, his face set in quiet determination. The battle wasn't over. It was just beginning. The following week, Elias returned. In his hand was a slightly thicker manila envelope. More reports, more documentation from his VA contacts. The fluorescent lights in the DMV seemed harsher, the atmosphere even more stifling. He took a number. Saturday waited. Observed the tired faces, the restless children, the erosion of patience. When his number was called, he found himself at a different counter, a different clerk. This one older, glasses perched at the end of her nose, her name tag reading, Brenda M. Supervisor. A fragile hope sparked in Elias. Perhaps a supervisor would show understanding. Brenda's voice, however, was efficient and cold. Elias placed the envelope on the counter. Good morning. I was here last week regarding a Level 3 disability placard. I was asked to provide more documentation. Brenda opened the envelope without responding, eyes scanning with practiced precision. The silence grew as she flipped through each page, occasionally clicking her pen against a notepad. Beside her stood a young employee in his 20s, Kyle, clearly shadowing Brenda. His smirk was faint, but present. His uniform worn with the smugness of someone who believed public service was authority, not duty. Level 3, huh? Kyle muttered, just loud enough. Elias ignored him. Brenda frowned deeper. These are VA reports, yes, but they're too general. We need documentation that connects these impairments to a Level 3 mobility limitation. As defined under State Statute 7.4.4 subsection B, frustration simmered beneath Elias's calm. Ma'am, the reports clearly state limited ambulation, chronic pain. These evaluations were done by my doctors at the VA. He remained composed, respectful, but it cost him. Brenda adjusted her glasses. Mr. Thorne, many people have aches. Many have served. The state doesn't issue these placards without exact compliance. Kyle laughed quietly. Rules are rules, pop pop. Guess the VA isn't good enough for the state. The condescension hit like a slap. Elias steadied his breath. He had taken breaths like that before breaching doors in war zones. Breath to still the storm within. He looked directly at them. The guidelines exist to support those in need. I need this. This isn't a handout. Whispers now drifted through the DMV. An older woman watched him with empathy. A man in a suit checked his watch, annoyed. Brenda tapped the application. We need a letter from a state-certified physician, not just VA doctors, and evaluations specific to 7.4 billion. Without that, I can't help you. State certified? Elias asked, disbelief seeping in. The VA doctors who treat combat injuries every day aren't qualified? Kyle snorted. Lots of folks try to milk the system. Elias's knuckles whitened around his cane. He clenched his other hand into a fist, restraining a storm of indignation. I am not milking anything, he said, low and firm. I am surviving a life shaped by service to this country. The murmurs around them grew. Brenda, sensing the shift, tried to reassert control. We're very busy. If you don't have the correct forms, there's nothing more I can do today. She waved him off. Next. But Elias didn't move. He stood firm, the envelope unmoved. Then, he made a final choice. From his jacket, he pulled a weathered leather wallet. From within, he unfolded a fragile, yellowed letter. Handwritten, official, a personal commendation. Perhaps this will clarify the nature of my service, he said softly. Brenda took it, clearly expecting irrelevance. Then she read the name at the bottom and froze. Marcus A. Thorne, Captain, U.S. Army. General Marcus Thorne. Now a 4-star general, national figure. Brenda paled. You served with General Marcus Thorne? Elias nodded. He would understand. The air shifted. Patrons leaned in. The older woman, Mrs. Henderson, pulled out her phone. She called her nephew in the governor's office. Less than 10 minutes later, the DMV doors burst open. 3 men in suits entered. One, David Ramirez, Deputy Director of Regional Veterans Affairs Oversight, strode to counter 4. Kyle tried to stop them. Ramirez didn't break stride. One raised hand silenced him. The tide had turned. Elias, quiet but unyielding, had brought the truth. This story is not fiction. It is a reminder of what we owe, of what we forget. Subscribe to Hidden Sparks for more stories that honor the silent battles around us.